The music industry can be a, well, rather complex business to navigate in. You see young men and women sign these record deals not knowing what they're signing and gaining money they believe is a payment, when in actuality, it's a loan. Record companies for decades have taken advantage of the fact that these young men and women know nothing about the business side of the industry, and they also profit from it. But lately, you're seeing a change. These artists are taking on multiple roles and are just as interested in learning the business side of music as well as the music itself. Today, I talked to an artist producer, C4 Don from Memphis, Tennessee, and he loves making music. But like many young artists today, he also understands it's also a business, and he is an artist who is about his business. Today, we talk business with C4 Don. Did you start off as a musician?
Yeah, yeah. My mom pushed me to play the drums, well, all the percussions. Um, did classical, and then after that, I just freelanced, and then from there, it just I was in like a marching band in school, around playing football, and around this thing called the jazz band that was part of my school. Um, and it broadened my horizon a lot from there. So yeah, that's where I started from.
You said mentioned a jazz band. So, what was it about that broadened your horizons?
Um, I never really, when I was playing or training for classical music, in Midtown of Memphis, I never really got a chance to like hear different sounds like the xylophones or the harp or something like that. So learning how to play that with the jazz band um, was very different. Hearing those sounds very different, and it brought up my whole like mindset of music itself. So different
So, at what
cadences and
point did you
everything.
decided that you're just a person who's playing instruments to deciding to you wanted to be an artist, you wanted to express yourself musically?
That was way later after became an engineer, well, became a full producer and an engineer and everything. And that was just in the midst of just me, in the midst of just me recording artists, seeing what they did wrong, what they did right, seeing what they did wrong with business and what they did right with it, who they associated themselves with. And me, I just took all pros and cons with it and just turned it, using myself. And then after a while, just dibbing and dabbing in the meantime, in between sessions, while I had free time and had the studio to my disposal, I just tried stuff. And after you get song one and you ended up getting the song 40 and you play it for people, after probably about eight people say, hey, it sounds decent enough to work, you just start trying. So, yeah.
So, when you got to the point where you were producing, like, how did you like for as like get into studios to produce, or were you in a studio?
No, when it came to producing, a lot of times starting off, I was just sending the beats. And then afterwards, I was linking up with artists in the studio. But we got this thing where we call studio trapping, where you just in the studio just to be there. You're not even supposed to be there. You're just there. And I remember being in the studio, coming in at probably 8, not leaving until 12, going back home. And you'll run into folks like Moneybag, or you might run into a Dolph. Um, you might run into a Chris Brown. You might run into a Johnny Gill. Never know. Um, if you got that right sound for them, they or if they nice enough, they'll let you come in and press play before the engineer arrives or whatever. Especially if you already know how to set up the boards and everything, you can have it already set up and just, hey, listen to something real quick. You got 2 minutes or 30 seconds. Press play and get your shot. And that's how I used it. And then after that, it's just, for artists like it and use it, you get that call. So just so
So,
happened to
I
get a
want to
few
expound
of
on
them
this
calls.
studio trapping idea. So, you basically just have I guess you like a bunch of beats, like your contact information, and you're just there, just kind of waiting on an opportunity.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. You're not even you just in at the time where it was more a little leeway. If if a studio with four studios in it and two of the major ones is booked out and the production suite is open, I would go in the production suite and might start cooking up beats, and I'll crack the door open on purpose to see if somebody walk by um and like it and hear it and walk in like, hey, what's that? That's me. Hey, let me try to do something on it. But yeah, or at first it stemmed from just trying get a to be able to just get a session in so I can make some money recording. And then between that, making money recording songs, whatever they already have, you play one of your beats, and that's like that's not one of my beats, but that's hard on you. Like, hey, that's one of mine. You can use it if you want to. And just different tricks of trying to get yourself out there. You just gotta put yourself in people's faces. That's the best way of getting yourself out there and getting a placement.
So, how would you know like which studios to go to?
I mean, if your ear, depending on depending on if you're a local producer or a nationwide producer. If you're a nationwide, if you're a local producer and your ear is well in the streets and stuff, you'll know what the major studio is. And it changes every like 3-4 years. It changes. You'll know what's the major studio to go to run into this artist, Little Baby or somebody like that. Or if you're a global studio, it's always the same ones. If you go in New York, you're going to Quad. If you're going to LA, you're either going to the Capitol Records to get a placement with Capitol Records, or you're going to one of Warner's private studios. You might if you go in um Miami, you're going to Hit Factory. If you're going to Atlanta, you're going to Patchwork or if you really in there like that, you're going to QC Studio, which major artists use. They rent out. Um, if you're coming here to Memphis, you're going to either For You at the time years ago. At the time, it was Art, but you're going to For You. Um, that's just that on that. You know, that's where Bag and Gotti use their studios. And if you getting private and private with it, you're going to either Young Avenue and uh and Warner private studio that's here in Memphis. So yeah.
So you mentioned the basically hanging in studios, and you say you're just getting your beats out there. So what other ways were you kind of networking and promoting yourself as a producer?
Um Instagram, all the social media sites. Instagram, uh I mainly use Instagram, but some people use Facebook, I guess. But Instagram is the best way to go because everybody's on Instagram, and then you can promote yourself. You can pay for promotion. You can get other artists to promote you. Um, but after you get yourself out there, to like, it only take one artist because once you produce for them and they like it, and if they're serious about it, that's the thing. They're just a local joke or whatever, and they put their stuff out. It's just that. But if you got a serious artist, if you lucky enough to get a person like Cocash that's on even on a smaller scale, or even a Key Glock, if you're local enough to get somebody that can that's serious, that shoot a video, that market and promotes, you don't have to do nothing as a producer. They just got to hear the beat and like it. And if they mess with you enough, they'll tag you in there to where you could just press the person pressing cursor, or and you'll pop up on top of the videographer tagged in, their label tagged in, and you'll be in the tag as well. So it really doesn't take you really don't have to do much once you get that first place. You just got to keep going. That's it.
So what would you say was the first time you kind of realized that this is a business and not just an art?
Well, lucky enough, it's a give and take, but uh I learned in college that it was a business, but I didn't experience it until I started out in this low budget studio. And I started out in this low budget studio, and then I went from there to Ardent, which basically I went from $10 an hour to like $150 an hour, which is a big gap, huge gap. Um, that I didn't know my worth then. And I found out very quickly. But I realized it was a business doing that. And also when I got my first Netflix placement off just engineering, not even on the beat, just me recording a song. I didn't even master it. Just me recording and mixing a song off whatever the Netflix movie Step Up, whatever with the girls. Um with the black girl that was in the sorority, training the white girls. I forgot the name of the movie, but it came out like 2017 on Netflix. Just that 1 minute placement was and was a blessing. Just seeing the actual check, the back end check off that was just different. It was just different. It was like, oh, okay. So this is what they talking about back end, literally the actual back end. So yeah. And then I
So,
didn't know
as
engineers
a
can make
person who
money as
just kind
well.
of watches Netflix, doesn't really think about like how the how the how everything is made. So, how does one get a placement in a film?
Well, the thing about it, if you're talking about just being okay on the producer end, you don't do nothing. It's well, depends on the producing end. And if you got an artist that's halfway major, lucky enough, I was working with an artist that was um semi major that had a hit song. Guy that made Hit the Quan, I Heart Memphis, and I was working with him, and he was semi major, and him and his team just did it themselves and got it in there. But if you're trying to like my beat that's on Baki Hama from the first season on Netflix, um usually it's really not hard. They'll usually have something out to where, hey, we're looking for new music, and especially if it's a new show, it's only if it's on Instagram and it's a new show, it probably just have like 1,500 followers. So it's not hard to submit it, and you never know it's going to be on Netflix. You just submitting and hoping you can get a few dollars out of it, not realizing you'll get a placement on Netflix plus residuals if you negotiate it. Um, but usually it's that, or you can have an agent. You can hire an agent that takes 20% out of it, um, which is pretty decent, depending on what they negotiate for you. But yeah, you can have one and two or the three.
Now you see those little Netflix ads for music or whatever. But with Netflix, you never know if it's legit or it's a scam, or that's kind of with a whole lot of stuff on Instagram.
I mean, it's never really strictly just Netflix. It's whoever the show is. So, prime example, when P Valley on Stars first was coming out, they had a thing where you can submit, especially Memphis artists. They wanted Memphis artists for sure, where you can submit your songs, submit it, and you'll get a placement on P Valley. And nobody paid attention. So the major labels they submitted, and even prime example, Duke Deuce, he had 4 songs on there, and they're from his old albums where they're still under his original account from, I guess, whoever his distributor was. It wasn't under quality control. It was his old stuff that he had. So he put out himself. So it's really not, you got to specifically find those. You can't, Netflix is never going to put out just, oh, we need soundtracks. Will it be labeled as, we need soundtracks for this movie or that? No, the people, the movie itself, the casting director and sound director itself is going to post that on their Instagram. And like I said, the Instagram is not going to be usually the biggest Instagram ever. Um, so you just got to pay attention, or you go with an agent. And usually if you go with an agent, I'm not gonna say it takes forever, but when they find something, they find something. So, and once the ball start rolling, it start rolling. So
So you mentioned it, getting an agent. Like when you think of
mhm.
like getting an agent, you think like for actors, stuff of that nature. You never really think of a producer getting an agent.
It's a lot of producers. It's either agent or a manager. A lot of producers get managers to get them placements, even in on rappers, singer songs or whatever. Yeah, the manager got to negotiate to get them in the studio, and they in the studio, then they got their shot. But me, I rather have. I mean, because I'm connected with different artists throughout the city and other places, but I'd rather have an agent that'll get me in a Netflix show because that's the residual. If you can get a 10 second, if you can get a 30 to a minute beat as a as whatever their intro is on Netflix, off rip, they got to give you like between 10 to 15,000 just off the base pay, upfront base pay, and then your residuals is just crazy because people gonna watch it. So imagine if you had a intro beat to like Moesha or something, and you're getting whoever made that 30 years ago is comfortable even now. Even now, Jamie Foxx intro, all that, they're comfortable now because those residual checks are different.
Yeah. So when I
Are
think of
different.
intros, I think of especially like 50 Cent and Joe for Power.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
it's because we never really think the business of just like that song. So like how did you even go about getting a song for like an intro for a show? How does that work?
Uh, like I said, that either if you do the negotiation and know who to talk to, if you do the negotiation yourself, that's just that way. But me, I'd rather leave it to an agent. You just put that bug in their ear, and if they can get it, they can get it. Um, I've never had that chance, or I'll be extremely more comfortable than I am now. But yeah, that's just something that your agent will have to negotiate um, if you get one. So, or
Now,
if
I
you
wanted to go back
negotiate meeting
to
the right person.
getting an agent. So, at what point would you kind of like recommend for an artist to look for an agent?
Well, that's the difference. Now with an artist, everybody say they're a manager or whatever, and it's not like you gotta see their resume or you gotta already know their pretty much you already know Coach K resume. You already know P resume, You Juice J Ray, Juice J and Project Pat managers, you know their resume. Um you got to know the person's resume before you even say, all right, you hired or whatever. But and you got to remember that they work for you. You don't work for them. So you can say no to things, and it's not a shocker for them. You can say no to things, but when it comes to artists, like I wouldn't advise artists to get an agent because, especially if you're not in that, if you're not I don't want to say a top tier artist, if you're not an artist that's at least getting like a million streams on your project or between a million to 10 million streams on your project where you have a fan base or you can go and do a show and actually gross a substantial amount of money off the shows or create your own tour and do that. I wouldn't advise an artist to get an agent at all because they still got to get to a certain point.
Now, when you started, like I know the industry wasn't like in the '90s where the label you just tried to get your stuff sent to a label. So, like when you started, like being an artist, Like, what was kind of the landscape of the music industry when you was originally got in?
Well, when I originally got in as being an artist, that's when that's when Chance the Rapper and Russ was screaming independence on their music. Um, so I never really I was paying attention to them, and Dolph. I was paying attention to them, but I really never just like thought about like just signing. I knew I would never want to sign unless it was with after a while, unless it was with Ray and Pat with Money Train Empire. But other than that, I knew I wasn't gonna sign to a major.
So you came
That I would
in
never sign.
pretty much being wanting to be an independent artist.
Yep, yep.
So, for somebody just outside of it, like, what is the benefits of being an independent artist?
Well, the benefit is whenever you do pop, it's all 100% you. Um, that's if you got the right distributor. If you got the right distro, um, it's minimum 80% you. When it comes to your videos, when it comes to your your music streams, your placements, your shows, your all that, everything is 100% you when it's working. Um, and it's a lot of downside. Downside is you're gonna go broke getting to it before you start benefiting. So
So, for most artists, they should know when they're going independent, there's going to be a point where you're broke.
yeah, we start off broke. Unless you, that's why they promote you to have more than one business going because being independent, to pop a record, you got to have at least just one song. You got to have at least like 100,000 to make. If you trying to make it pop, like you got to have at least 100,000 at minimum to make it pop. Between getting the record, between paying for the beat, depending on what level producer it is, getting the recording, getting the mix and master, paying for the video, depending on how big your budget video is, and then marketing and promoting, and then doing this interview for it, that interview for it, cover for it, the motion cover, getting the right distributor and paying them, and then they're paying for PR to push it and do whatever, and then trying to get on Genius, Breakfast Club, uh, Dirty Glove Bastard, DJ Smalls, No Jumper. You trying to get on all whatever, trying to put on World Star, whatever. It's 80% of the business. Um, no, it's 95% of the business, 5% of the music because it don't take. You can get a song nowadays. You can get a song done $20 for $20 in 30 minutes. So
I think that's
that's
interesting
how
that
it
people don't
one
necessarily
came
think
about.
about like how much money is put in to a song that makes it a hit. Because if for us,
It's,
it's just something you hear on radio or you saw it on a playlist and you originally like it. Like there's money into making a song, but like that process of that song being made to being a hit, like how much money, time, and effort was put into all of that.
it's it's no telling. It's no telling. Um, I've heard I've heard Bad and Bougie was took a quarter million to 300,000 um from their own marketing team personnel. Um, I've heard outrageous numbers just to make one song pop, and they never had another song. Um, it's no telling. It's really no telling. And the thing about it, you might not get that money back, or it'll take, depending on if you're doing independently, you might make the money back probably work within a year of shows or something like that. But and that's another thing. Once you pop independently and you getting show money, you can make it back then. But you'll be able to have the Don Trip and Star Leader effect where they can set up a whole tour right now and it's completely sold out, the whole tour. But that's just the benefit of just being independently. But no, I've heard outrageous numbers, or just one song, not even a whole album. Don't let it get into a whole album. That's now you in the millions.
Since you wear multiple hats, I kind of wanted you to break something down in these different hats. Like, how does an artist get paid? How does a producer gets paid? And how does a engineer gets paid?
Okay, I'm gonna start from engineer first. Engineer get paid off the rip because they got to record it. So, um, engineer. Okay, I'm gonna go how Capital set it up. When it comes to engineering, um, in a session you have the actual engineer, you got the engineer assistant, then you got the runner. The runner 9 times out of 10 is making between $10 to $20 an hour running, and all he doing is if the artist says go get some snacks, and the engineers, anybody in the room say go get some snacks, go get this, go get some cigarettes, go get some weed, go get whatever. He got to go. He or she got to go get it. Assistant engineer is strictly what it's for, assisting the engineer. If the main engineer decides, hey, I want to take a break, they usually getting paid $50, 25 to 15, $50 out. If the main engineer says, hey, I'm tired, I'm gonna let you take over for about 2-3 hours, I'm gonna go get a nap, they gotta do it. Especially because usually in big budgeted sessions, it's usually between 12 hours to a 2-week process, non-stop, like people smell and everything. So the assistant engineer got to pick up the slack or whatever, and like I said, they're getting paid $25 to $50 an hour. The main engineer, strictly what it is, the main engineer, they usually getting paid between $100 to $200 an hour. And they just and they're just getting taken care of from there. Now, as far as whatever the engineer negotiates, their name can be even trickle down all the way to the runner, can be in the song as far as the discography. But as far as back end pay with splits and everything like that, they'll have to negotiate. And I've seen that go way wrong, even reached within the year. They'll have to negotiate their splits if they get any. If they get any. Now, the only time they'll get some money is if their name is on the song. And just like me, when a song ends up on Netflix or Hulu, that's how they get it. Now, when they get it, ain't no telling. Their guess is better than my guess is better. Their guess is better than mine. So now, when it comes to a producer, the producer, if they look up and get a placement just off one song, when it comes to a major label, it's off of what they're negotiating. Major producers, like Tay Keith, he charged like $75,000 a beat now. So a major label gonna pay for that, depending on the artist. Depending on the artist and how much they're gonna spend and part of their budget. But major label gonna pay for that. So, but starting off producer or whatever, you coming in and you got like a little local or regional buzz or whatever, and then that artist gets signed or whatever. Pooh Shiesty effect. With TP808s from here, you can negotiate. You get $2,500 up front for the beat, or you can negotiate. You can get $10,000 for the beat, especially if you got one beat. Now, if you got a few out of the album, if you got one beat, they can easily just take you off the album, depending on how high you negotiate your price. Now, if it's a 12-song album and you got 8 songs on there, they're gonna like try to work with you on a negotiation where you can say, all right, look, I want $3,500, $2,500 a beat. Just give me $2,500 a beat. And you get the 20,000. Now you get the 20,000 when the producer deck is cut. Producer deck shows who produced what and blah, 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 and who engineered and mixed, mastered everything that's going to be showing up in the discography. So when you get that, usually you get that no later than 2 weeks to a month before the album drops. And when you get that, um, it's coming a big. I actually got one hidden somewhere. It's come in a big Manila folder with your check in there plus the discography of everything. So, well, with the producer deck of everything, where your name shows up. Um, and you get that. Now, when it comes to the back end off of that, or you work out where you get half up front. So if it's a song, $25, you get 10,000 up front, and then 2 weeks after the album come out, you get 10,000, depending on what you negotiate with the label, whatever. Now, when it comes to back end, when you're doing either BMI or ASCAP or CD Baby or whatever, you 9 times out of 10, you're not seeing any back end money until 6 months to a year. That's if you're doing your right back end residuals. And then those checks are come 2 years, 2 times out of the year. Every half. Top of the quarter of one and middle of the quarter at the end of quarter two. 2 times out of the year. That's when you see your publishing checks. Other than that, unless you get, like I said, same with an engineer, unless you get placement on Netflix, Hulu, or some TV show or whatever with that song, like when got Drum Guy got the okay song with Moneybagg and Future on Empire, they got a huge check, you got a decent check for it. So yeah, it all depends on what you negotiate again. So, and then when it comes to the artist, that's a long list of stuff, whatever you negotiate in your deal. But usually an artist is the last one to see some dollars. All they get is the upfront. If they sign to a label, all they get is the upfront money. All they get is the upfront money and their show money, the feature money, depending on how popping they are. Usually all they get, that's all they get. Show, feature, and whatever advance money they get from label. Now, if you're independent and you negotiate your right distro or whatever, you get that as soon as it hits. As soon as it hits, depending on when your distro put out the payments and the spreadsheet on where the money coming from, whatever. So, but you get that between your videos and all that, everything, features, all that, you get all that. Even if it's Shazammed, if it's used on an ad, one of my old songs from 3 years ago got used on plenty of jewelry and lingerie ads. I'm still getting paid for that. So yeah, on Instagram. So yeah, you'll get that. As an artist that signed somebody, you'll never, unless you got a pit bull lawyer or something like that, you'll never know. You'll never know. So
One
yeah.
thing I've noticed you brought up a lot is negotiations. So, like, how's your process for you going about negotiating?
Well, when it comes to me negotiate, well, I have a distribution situation. So that negotiation really wasn't hard. It was me basically telling them, hey, I don't want to get anything up front. I'm just gonna upload and pay y'all for PR work, and that's about it. That's what I do. But when it comes to beats, if I get a beat placement, um, I don't switch up my price. A lot of people do because they might need the money desperately, but I don't switch up even with engineering. Well, one, I don't really engineer anymore. I might get a mixing or mastering request or something like that, but other than that, I don't really do that anymore because I put 100% of my focus on the music as an artist. But even as a producer, whenever I tap back into that, my price never changes. Never, never. Even as a feat for features, I don't change the price on that either. So yeah,
So, how
it's
did you
all
go
about whatever
about
you negotiate.
necessarily like? Because again, like most people's job, their job kind of tells them what their pay is. But for you, you have to build that price yourself. So how do you go about pricing your service?
Um, Supply and demand. Um, when I was very, very known in the when it came to recording, um, I knew once I had people that when they asked for me, the guy, because I used to wear a mask all the time because people would smoke too much. Um, when people just ask, yeah, I want the guy with the mask on. And nobody just knew who I was and my face and nothing like that. I knew it was a huge supply and demand for me. So at that point, you can raise the price. You know, you can price it at whatever you want. It still got to be reasonable for people to pay, but you can price it whatever you want. You know, and it makes it easier for you. And then and it makes it what makes it easier is when you have your own. So if you record at a studio, however, somebody asks, yo, I need these 8 songs mixed, and you can be able to mix it from your house and send it to them instead of having to go in a major studio and pay $100 an hour out of your cut or whatever. And the artist not able to pay for, $200 an hour when they just spent 1,000 on just recording all the songs or whatever. Um, but you can cut it to where you get all your funds in and be able to, you know, mix it from the house and send it to them. The we transfer, it makes it easier. Same with the beats. You Once you become a high demand on the beats, you can price it whatever. Same with being an artist. Um, Whenever you're a popping artist and you got a demand or whatever, you charge whatever you want. That's with any field, photography, videography, anything.
So in
So,
saying it's important to create that demand, and then your price can kind of you can kind of build your price up from there.
mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
So just for somebody who may not know, like what is the kind of difference between a producer and an engineer?
The producer, the producer creates the beat, creates the track for the artist to go on. The engineer records the artist, make them sound wonderful, and basically creates that thought that the artist is trying to put out. Um, Producer only just help with the thought. The artist might have already have something written, and the producer just creates with the flow or whatever the artist come up with. Engineer just put it together and makes the sandwich. Producer is nothing but like the peanut butter and jelly. No, the producer is nothing but like the bread. Um, Artist is the peanut butter and jelly. The engineer is nothing but the person making the sandwich. That's it.
The person making a sandwich. I don't know, like sound of that. But
Yeah.
when you mentioned something about, I know you were saying that with your distro deal, you didn't want nothing on the front end. Now you
No.
here in the '90s that you'll get these big checks in the front. They'll get these big checks in the front end, which we all thought were checks, but then later on you'll see them on VH1 documentary, and they're suddenly gone broke. So how does that happen?
Well, the difference is, okay, so with them, it was no such thing as a distro distribution deal back in the 90s. You was just trying to get signed to a label. That was it. And you thought you was on and you thought you made it. And you signed to a label. Like when people think they made it when they graduate from college, whatever. No, it's life after that. So when you sign, usually people think when they hear, oh, I got $1 million deal, they think they got $1 million. No, off the rip, taxes getting taken out. No, I'm wrong. Off the rip, taxes and whatever A&R brought you there, finder's fee. So the A&R can say, hey, I need a 10% finder's fee for this or a 20% finder's fee. Well, boom,
So
that's
the finder's fee
200,000
comes
going off.
from your pay.
Yeah, it comes from your pay. Now the A&R can negotiate to just add a topping on that to make it a $1.2 million deal to where their finance, regardless, is coming from your pocket. And they have nothing, like they get that, and that's just theirs, and they chilling. They took all they did was basically take the artist to the label, play them their best record, and label say, all right, we're gonna sign. All right, here you go, $50,000 to you. Thank you for finding them. All right, bye. Boom. And then only after that, they just like, all right, I'm gonna work with you with the artist on like certain stuff, but that only lasts like between 6 months to a year, depending on how big or decent the artist is, and if they flop or not. But you get tax in the art and the finder's fee. So taxes, you might as well say $250,000 taken off. Boom, that's that. Finder's fee, if there's 10 to 20%, but let's do 20%, to which is average 200,000. Boom. Now you down to 550 K. Off the rip, they take at least another $250,000 that's supposed to be for is supposed to be for like the work, the studio. Even if they got their own studio, they still got to pay the engineer and the assistant engineer and the runner and all that stuff. So even for that, studio, producers, that's the part of your budget. Engineers, producers, the photographer, you want pictures taken in the studio. Artists want pictures and behind the scenes stuff and all that jazz and stuff. They doing that. The videographer, you want a big $30,000 budget video, which back then it was $1 million video, 100,000. The cheapest was like $50,000 to $100,000 video, whatever back then. But nowadays, you want a $30,000 video. All right, cool. You want this rent a car in there, and they charging $2,500 to rent it for a day. All right, cool. You want 20 of the same car, the same Cadillac truck. All right, cool. That's 50,000 off the rip right there. That's more than a video, but all right. Yeah, and all you get a chance to shoot one video, and you took home $250,000. Now, what you don't realize is you owe $1 million, and you trying to figure out how did that happen. And you don't have a show. You didn't give nobody a feature. They didn't get you to be on nobody's hook or nothing. They ad lib nothing. You just out. You just out. And
So
as
you
soon as
got
your
a
one
million
song
to
flop,
owe $1 million.
you got $1 million. You didn't even get $1 million. You got a quarter to owe $1 million. Then on top of that, they might not even promoted you because you took the whole budget and used it for the video. You went over. So you probably now you probably owe like 1.1 or 1.2 or something. Because you went over for that one video. You wanted this, that, and third, not realizing what it costs. They don't have a spreadsheet of what it costs. They didn't give you that. You get that once you get the Tupac and Suge Knight effect. Once you get that piece of paper, like, yeah, this, that, yeah, you owe all that. Yeah, that's cool. You want to do this if you want to leave, but you got to pay all this back. Can't even leave. You stuck. Now you got to realize you got to go bankrupt, depending on what you sign. If you sign your ENT or whatever, or if you put you and your partners that's under you in a messed up situation, you flop. Your partner's got to do something. One of your artists that's under you got to do something. They pop, but they still not gonna be out of the hole. They got to come out with 85 albums before they get all y'all out of the hole. One of y'all do. So then,
So
even if you get
how do
out of the
you
hole,
your process of making an album when you don't have nothing on the front end to make that album? You're just getting it on the back end. So how do you make it with just the back end?
uh, with the back end, well, I don't focus on the back end. I let that surprise me whenever it comes. I never expect to receive anything on the back end. Usually, for the past year, I've been blessed enough to be able to have people hit me up for features, even to be in videos. I've done probably like 2 shows this year, and I use that. I just plan wisely. The thing about it is you got to plan very wisely when you preparing for a album or project, whatever they call it. Um, you got to plan wisely and budget for real. When it comes to videos, recording, everybody want to be in $1 million studio, but have a $10 engineer when you can have $1 million engineer and be in their house and come out with $1 million product to make people believe that you was in $1 million studio and paid $500 an hour for studio time. So no, it just depend on how you budget and you know from there you'll be fine.
And I guess usually a label doesn't necessarily, for one, tell you nothing about budgeting or even tell you how a breakdown of what you would have to pay.
No, no. I've had people in labels that was nice enough to give me some information. I've had artists that have been through the situation that finally got their paperwork back and saw the different spreadsheets on where their money was going, um, or where their budget money was going. Um, and I took heed. Like I said, in the process of being a producer and engineer, I've had the chance to see all that, at least 80% of the negative that comes with it. So I took from that point on, I took a stance of just being independent, no matter how much money I put in this. Because at the end of the day, if some point I pop and something happened to me, and uh, my kids, my wife will be able to get all the residuals, and they'll be able to see all the money from it. So yeah.
So, and like again, you mentioned a lot of artists that you were listening to when you started. You was talking about being independent. Is that is just kind of like with artists in your circle? There's always kind of a thing for them.
Uh, crazy enough, the artists in my circle, they're either signed. So the people that I came up with, it's crazy because they were engineers too and producers. The people that I came up with recently signed deals with like Warner and RCA and even local spot here, Beetroot, for distribution deals. But we're still hearing, even after hearing horror stories from those companies. So even now, watching what they're going through now is like, oh well, I can't drop for another year, and or I did all this to and even spend my own money to give them videos to fulfill my requirements and stuff. Um, and they're saying I can't drop again until um I recoup or whatever, even though I spent my own money, so I'm not understanding. But yeah, that's I'm watching them and I'm like, nah, I can't go through that. I just can't see myself going through complaining about how a label not letting me drop or how they didn't push me hard enough or whatever. And I gotta pay to promote my own stuff. Like I rather just pay to promote my own stuff and see it myself. And plus, I never let you wouldn't let nobody run your bank account. Like I don't care how many millions you have, you wouldn't let I don't care. I'm not about to let a CPA run my bank account or whatever. So I'm not about to let a label uh tell me or create their own spreadsheet to tell me what they spent out of the money I was supposed to have or whatever, because anybody can make an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm not about to get jacked that way.
So, do you think that being an indie artist and indie producer, like, does it almost like forces you to kind of have to learn the business of music like more efficiently for you?
Yeah, you gotta learn the business of music if you're trying to be an independent artist, because you'll never want to get in a situation where you get the call of being able to get a placement on Netflix and not know what to do. or how to react to it. Because you'll just say yeah, but you don't know what to negotiate as far as, all right, this is the first payout. You want the song? Cool, you can use the song, whatever, but they'll use it on the in the movie and on the soundtrack, but you don't know to negotiate to tell them, yeah, I need to see the spreadsheets and the back count of everything that come in when it comes to the song, meaning the spreadsheet of the back counts of how many times that movie was played when it got to that section and the song was played, how many times the song was played in the movie, how many times the soundtrack, how many streams it was streamed on the soundtrack on Apple Music, Spotify, whatever. How many times it was used in the commercial, all that. But you don't know. You just happy that you about to see about $10,000, $15,000 finally off of one of your songs being put in a movie or a TV show or something or a commercial, and not know to ask for residuals, 25% or ask for a 2-point margin on the back end.
So being an indie artist, I guess it helps you know what to ask for.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now again, you have your day to day life, and you're basically your own boss as well. So you're kind
Mm-hmm.
of always at work. So how do you kind of like I guess delegate your time? So your work is not taking too much from your life, or your life is not taking away too much from your work.
Um, I just have to manage my time well. I try to I try to, make time for everything the best way I can. Um, and I try to plan well. Like I said, you gotta when it comes to being an artist, you gotta plan well as far as uh strategizing to drop your album and put together an album. So you gotta have something to talk about. Because if you don't have nothing to talk about, you just sitting wasting time in the studio. Um, so luckily for me, a lot of weird stuff happens in my life every now and then, um, which give me a few songs to come up with. And if you got the right beat, you can drop anything on it. Um, but usually I give myself like a year plan, like a year plan before I drop an album. So my songs usually be done at least 4 to 5 months before I'm ready to drop it. And I already have the title and everything done. My videos usually be done 2 to 3 months before I'm ready to drop it. And then um, graphics, motion picture, cover, all that, photos to put out, through the internet. And when I mean through the internet, to have it's like my Google chart and everything, and for interviews. So when they post an interview, they have a fresh photo of you to use um, as the pick. And best to have that done 2 to 3 months ahead. So when you load it up, if you're doing the right business, if you load it up for publishing and everything, because publishing might take between 2 weeks to 2 months to come back and it's like, all right, it's ready, it's green light. So yeah, I usually take 6 months to a year to plan and get ready for it to drop.
So you're very strategic in your layout.
Yep,
So is there
heavy on it.
any space for anything random?
I really hate random. I really hate it. Other than just like if I do a feature for somebody, because me, I'm a timely person. So if prime example, if my project I'm dropping in January, um, I had a list of features that I was trying to get, but if they didn't make the time that I wanted to have it in by, I wasn't gonna get it. Now, if it's features for somebody else, it's cool. I get that in when I get it in. I knock it out right then and there. But as far as for my own work, no, I got to get in a certain time. Got to get it in a certain time because it's not gonna fit my idea that I'm trying to get. And then especially I don't usually do if somebody try to bring me a song like, yeah, put this on your album. I don't do that. I don't like random stuff. So
I wanted to go back to when you was mentioning the studio because yeah, I mean when you're in the studio, you're paying per hour, so obviously you want your time to be used correctly. So how do you prepare for a studio session?
um me when I prepare, okay, so I I'm basically locked in with a certain amount of producers that have my sound. So my best, I don't write anything. And that's because when you first hear a beat, you already have a melody and you already have your idea come to your head right then and there. So when I go in the studio and I don't play the beat before then. I play it as soon as I get there. So once I play it, and probably after 10, 15 seconds, I already know what the hook's gonna be. So I go in and I knock out the hook, and then I take my time with the verses, and I usually knock it out within 30 to 40 minutes. Usually I come up and finish a song between 25 to 45 minutes. So if I got a 6 hour session, usually I'm coming out with about 6 to 8 songs. Yeah.
So you don't usually like any like song ideas or notes anything. You don't jot those down until you go in there.
No, because say if I get a beat sent to me and I listen to the beat and I type it down and then I wait, but I can't get in the studio today. I have to get in tomorrow. Well, if I go in tomorrow, I might not feel the same way I feel today. So the same emotions and the same note might not come out of me the same way it did yesterday or whatever. So I gotta wait till right then and there because I'll feel it and I'll be able to go straight in the booth and just knock it out right then and there. Especially like even if I had a studio session within the next hour and I hear the song now, beat now, and I go in, I'm not busting the same notes. I'm not, you know, pronunciating the same or anything. It's different. I'm saying something different. I'm sitting here trying to, well, what did I just say? Or how did I say it? I just can't. Now, some people they're cold enough to do that. They're cold enough to write. Like I've seen prime example, Finesse 2 times. He rehearsed his songs 30 times before he come to the studio and he knocks it out, the song out in 8 minutes. 8 minutes, first take.
So
Do the
every
hook.
artist
He
has
might
their
layer
own
the hook.
process.
Yeah, yeah. And whatever process they have that works for them, it works for them. So
So how long you think it took for you to kind of figure out your own process?
uh 2 albums after I came out with the letter, no, a mixtape and 3 albums. Yeah, a mixtape and 3 albums to figure out what I'm doing. Because usually when the artists start out, they don't know what they're doing. So yeah, mixtape and 3 albums too. It took me to figure out what I'm doing.
So you have the career where you have to navigate from being an artist, but you're also a businessman. So how do you
Hmm.
kind of learn how to not like I guess clash those two worlds?
Um. Well, I take all the energy that comes with the business. Basically all like the stress and everything. Um, I put that in the music. So it's basically like the music is therapeutic. Literally, everybody that's so cliche, but it really is. So I take everything. If I have a stressful day, I take that and put that in the music, and then it's released up out of me. So um, that's basically that's the only way I can explain it. I don't really have like a certain process of just trying to split the two. I just do because business. I mean, at the end of the day, business, and you have to accept that when you come in this business. I mean, you get in this business, you got to accept that business. You're not gonna get every feature. You're not gonna get any interview. You're not gonna, a photographer or videographer might upcharge you on a fee um, for their service or whatever. Your distributor might upcharge you. You just got to take that. But it's cool when you go through all that because you're able to put that in a song and express that, and somebody else might relate and might like the song. So you never know. It's just certain things you just got to work through. You know. So.
So as we wrap things up, just wanted you to kind of, I guess, give a little advice. So somebody who is just wanting to get in the music industry, like what advice would you give them?
Um, as a producer, um, as a producer, I would say don't take any deal. Um, don't take any assignment situation. Uh, Study your craft, work on it. That's for all areas. Um, and try to connect with with a main artist, lock in with them, because if they pop, you pop. You're their sound. As an engineer, know your worth as an engineer. Know what level of engineer you are. Keep on working on your craft. Don't take any engineering label deal, no matter how much they're offering you, because I've seen engineers die off being stressed, because the label is forcing them to record their whole roster, which is 45 people, and 40 of them nobody knows, and are the biggest buttholes, period. And not even the major artists. But know your worth and charge your worth. As an artist, don't take every deal. I wouldn't say don't take any deal, but don't take every deal. In this day and age, everybody is pushing independence. But if it works for you, if you negotiate what you negotiate, make it work for you. But spend your money. I would advise you to make some money and spend your money. And try to push as far as you can, and don't let nobody tell you you can't. So.
Now you mentioned you had a project coming out in January. Just wanted you to take a minute to talk about your project.
Yeah, got a project, collective of 8 songs called Winter 3. It's featuring Al Green's son, Cam Moore, and one signee that I have under me named KOB, from out of Memphis, obviously. But like I said, it's collective of 8 songs. It's under my branch and exclusively licensed through Ditto Music, and it's basically just it's a stress reliever basically for me. It's talking about what the average Joe go through. It's not flashing, popping my stuff. It's just me talking about what the average person goes through.
I would like to thank C for the Dawn for taking time to talk to me today. His current project, Winter 3, is currently out and can be found on all streaming platforms. I am once again Kevin Mumphrey, and we are talking business.